Tony Julien is a veteran broadcaster in Grenada. He lives with epilepsy. This is his experience.
This has to do with one aspect of my life and the lives of a fair number of Grenadians. That's medical. It's a medical condition that we in Grenada commonly refer to as fits. F-I-T-S, fits. The correct word for fits is seizures. As a matter of fact, if you go in some countries and you say that you have fits, as I did a few years back when I went to a part of the United States and I was drawn up on it, I was told animals have fits, people have seizures. And I have a full-blown case of fits or seizures that's referred to as epilepsy. Epilepsy.
How long have you had epilepsy?
All of my life,
How does it affect your life?
in just about every way imaginable. Epilepsy is an illness, an affliction of the brain due to various reasons. You can have epilepsy for various causes, but an interesting thing, and that is how the brain is, how complex it is, how complex an organ it is. Because you have fits or seizures does not necessarily mean that you have epilepsy, but it does not mean that you should not get it attended to, or at least seek the cause of it and have symptoms treated.
Okay, so you say it affects all areas of your life. Give me an example.
Social has been a big one. Epileptics, by and large, are known to be withdrawn. Unfortunately, it's a highly stigmatized medical condition. And as such, a lot of people would rather die before letting you know that they have epilepsy. I made myself a promise, and I'm not holding myself up to be a hero because it's come a price. But I made myself a promise I was not going to be quiet about having epilepsy.
Did you have any episodes at work or so? Did that ever happen at your work?
Yes, and I can recount for you a particularly painful episode. A lot of people, when they hear about fits, think of what's referred to as falling down, and that often happens. Yes, you collapse, you go into convulsions, you start jerking up or ceasing, and you can froth at the mouth. There was a time, another occasion, that apart from what I'm about to refer to you, and I nearly died.
Oh, really?
If a brother of mine had not been there. And for those who are thinking, brother, he's his mother's only child, yes, I am. But my father had several children. And one of my favorite brothers was staying with me one time after Hurricane Ivan. Woke up in the wee hours of the morning, looked across and saw me in the midst of a seizure, a fit. I was choking on particles on food coming from my stomach. They had gotten stuck in my throat. You'll also notice, and I have made a point when I've read news as a newscaster to smile, and I'm doing that right now. But if you notice when I smile, there's a space between my two top teeth. That happened during an epileptic seizure. I am what you call nocturnally active. That means I get my major seizures in my sleep. And I woke up one morning, not only to find my mouth all bloody because I had bitten up my tongue, feeling muscles aching in my body where I didn't even know I had muscles. I had urinated myself. That happens quite often. But I also found that I had chipped my two front teeth.
How?
Over
How did that happen? You have no
well,
idea.
you clench your teeth, you clamp down on them and everything. That is why I will make an appeal while I think about it one time, and it's a gentle appeal. Very often it is thought that one of the best things to do when you are assisting a person having a seizure or a fit is to put something into the person's mouth to keep them from biting on their tongue. It is one of the worst things you can actually do. Why? Because of what happened to my two front teeth. The enamel of the teeth can break and you can actually get choked by the enamel. A lot of people think that if you put something in the person's mouth, you can at least prevent them from swallowing their tongues. Rest assured, swallowing one's tongue is a medical possibility. What can happen is that the tongue can get swollen because of the biting and make breathing difficult, added to what is being emitted from the body through, and I'll just come out and say the word vomiting. So, my brother, he is the only person alive right now who has ever seen me in a seizure. The other two people, my dearly departed mother and her dearly beloved aunt of mine, had seen me in a seizure as well, but they're no longer with us. So my brother is the only one who has seen such. Now, the incident in terms of book, as you had asked, there was one time when I got a level of seizure. It was not convulsions, it was frothing at the mouth. But that gives me the chance to let others know there are different levels of seizure. There are what you call partial seizures. And there are two types of epilepsy, by the way, while I'm at it. There is focal epilepsy, that is a particular part of the brain, minus the temporal lobe. Your brain has two temporal lobes, one roughly behind each ear. And you can have generalized seizures, seizures that occur at different areas. But I would rather a medical practitioner coming on and giving full details as to this. I was getting a partial seizure at work. How it started? Well, there were days back then my medication just decided it was not going to work. A co-worker and good friend of mine, and actually somebody who used to get seizures himself because he had fallen from a truck on one occasion. I get very nervous when I see young men, for example, they are sitting or standing in the tray of a van that is racing down the highway. Now, one thing I am making an appeal to or about is people who are getting rides on the backs of a van with an open tray or in an open tray. Very often you see these people sitting up on the edges of such vans, or worse yet, standing and holding on to the back end of where the driver is seated. Now, if that van has to suddenly slam brakes, worse yet, it could hit a hole in the road, a pothole or something like that, which is what happened to that co-worker of mine. He was traveling on a truck, seated on the side of that van, and the front tire, one of the front tires, hit a dip in the dirt road. It bounced him from the side of the van. Not only did he land on his head, the side of his head, but the spot where he landed had a sharp stone sticking up from. So he had seizures for a number of years. The interesting thing, and that is why I had alluded to the how complex the brain is, out seizures after a while, but he continued to get some nasty headaches, and no doubt in relief.
So when he saw you at work, what did he do?
So he ended up, from what I am told, because that's another thing about in the throes of either a partial seizure or a tonic clonic or deep seizure, is that you really don't remember large patches of what has actually occurred, if you remember the incident at all. Interestingly enough, I was having one of those seizures where I was aware of everything. I just was unable to respond. People kept asking me if I was all right, how I was feeling, what was going on, what was wrong, Tony. And I was aware of everything around me. I just could not respond. I was brought home, put down on a seat, and I was just rocking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I have only ever had one girlfriend in my life who has been able to handle the fact that I am epileptic, and this is not a lash out at women. It is a difficult condition for the person who has it to handle, let alone for many other people, men or women, to handle. But this one lady, she and I are no longer together, but I heard my mother say to this co-worker who had brought me down home, call her, and she called the girlfriend's name. The girlfriend came, and immediately she knew to take off her high heel shoes. Now I'm saying that to mention another aspect of an epileptic affliction. You can be audio sensitive, that is sensitive to sound, and the temporal lobes are very involved in sound, in memory, in emotional control, and in a number of other things. You can also be photosensitive, that's sensitive to light. So flashing lights can actually start a seizure. Some epileptics, when they are in the throes of an epileptic seizure, will smell certain things or get a strange taste in their mouth. There are different types of seizures. Again, the brain being very calm.
So when your girlfriend took off the high heel shoes, what did she do?
She came across to me very slowly, and that is a wonderful thing about her. She knows the tone of voice to use. She made her voice very gentle, and before reaching out to touch me, because I was on the seat rocking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Well, for short, she calls me T. T for Tony. But that was a lover's name between the two of us. And she said, T, it's me. I'm here. You know the voice? And she said, I just want to reach out and touch you. Not stop your rocking, just touch you. I will move my hand with you. You are going to feel my hand getting closer to you. That's how sensitive I was in the seizure. Long story short, she reached out to touch me. She drew closer. She got her arms around me, and she was rocking all the time. Never stopped her motion.
Was she trained in the medical field? How did she know?
Both of her parents are doctors, well, I should say were. Sadly, her father is deceased, but the mother is practicing medicine in Trinidad. She herself, the girlfriend, is Trinidadian. She is a pharmacologist, highly trained, in fact, and I'm going to big her up. Some of our young pharmacists who are working here in Grenada have actually been trained by her. So she knows her stuff.
I could edit this if you want, but why didn't you marry her?
Well, because she herself pulled away twice. One time, she had to have a hysterectomy, her womb removed because of fibrosis. And she knew I wanted a child, but only in marriage. So we were hastening to plan the wedding. And while we were doing so, her fibrosis returned, and she was told no second chances, everything had to come out. But she made the decision for the two of us that because she couldn't give me a child, marriage wouldn't work. Needless to say, she and I agreed to disagree. Furious. We argued about it for days. Then again, one other time, she decided she wanted to give it a second chance, but for whatever reason, she changed her mind. I'm yet to find out that reason, but it's a lady like that that not just me, every other epileptic man or every man who is bothered or afflicted by seizure related activity, that's the kind of woman he is.
Well, whoever she is, blessings. She sounds like an angel.
Pretty much close to.
What kind of medication you take?
Actually, I take three kinds of medication. You are right to first ask medication, interestingly enough, for my case in particular, because I started with one. How I ended up with epilepsy, it's called forceps delivery, I should say. Forceps are implements that Christ blessedly are no longer allowed to be used in child delivery. Not only can they potentially, if they are incorrectly used, cause something like epilepsy, there are children with cerebral palsy who have also ended up with epilepsy, with that condition because of forceps delivery.
So it damages the brain.
It can.
Okay.
It can. It has not always happened, but in my case, and I was born, I'm not hiding to say it, 1st of June 1968. I'm no baby. Okay, 57 years old, June gone. And my mother, she started having her convulsions in a clinic. Well, when she got them, she was brought to a clinic in Richmond Hill. What happened, I never got a straight story on, but she had to be transferred to the general hospital. Forceps were inserted into her, and you have to work with the convulsions, I believe. Each convulsion the woman has, you put with the forceps. And so it is quite a procedure.
Listening
I
to you describe it, I am picturing it because I have a very vivid imagination, and I'm videotaping this, and I'm I'm feeling pain.
It was my mother who said after my delivery, that's it. I am not having another child. And guess what? She was serious. That's why
Do
a
you
lot
blame
of
her?
people don't realize I have brothers and sisters on daddy's side.
But do you
Because I
blame her?
know absolutely not.
Okay.
And hey, I enjoyed the earlier part because, of course, all the attention was on me. But now that's actually a good thing we're getting into, because now that I'm growing older and the right kind of woman to handle an epileptic man is becoming a difficult thing to find. It is becoming serious. And I wish, therefore, that there were others. I do have very caring relatives, don't get me wrong, but everyone has a life to live. Everyone has their own children, their own home situations, their own whatever it is to deal, you know? So, the medications that I take, I started on one, was switched to another, was switched to another. The medication I took for the longest time is a medication, the generic name for it, that is a non-brand name, is carbamazepine. In Grenada, it's often sold under the name Tegretol. Tegretol costs twice the amount as carbamazepine, its generic version, but for a very good reason. Carbamazepine for me took up to an hour and a half to 2 hours for me to feel it working in my system. Tegretol, oh, that baby worked in 20 minutes flat. And the same girlfriend I mentioned, she let me know why. She said there are certain drugs, when they are sold as a brand name, the reason is, by and large, that they have what's called fillers that are introduced, mixed with the main drug. These fillers will enhance the effect of the main drug. It'll make the main drug act faster, more potently. As such, though, that introduces yet another aspect, that is side effects. After a while, I was getting bad headaches from Tegretol. I had to change the medication in the year 2020. There was a Cuban neurologist here in Grenada, absolutely brilliant. Very sadly, we lost him. He's now in the States. But he first got me changed onto two other medications. So now I'm on, ironically, one of the oldest anti-epileptic drugs. It's called phenobarbital. And I just wanted to show a picture of the phenobarbital. That's a 30 milligram strain. There's a slightly larger one, a 60 milligram strain. But I
So how expensive is it for you, that medical condition?
For me, on an everyday basis, not too expensive, but I know when I was growing up and my mother was trying to bring me to different parts the of Canada, of Trinidad, I should say, to see um,
Specialists and so on?
specialists and everything like that. That was a very difficult time.
So how often do you take the medications? Twice a day, once a day? How often?
Twice a day.
Twice, morning and evening?
In one morning and evening.
So three in the morning and in the evening?
Yeah. Three types in the morning
Uh-huh.
and three types in yeah.
Okay. So what do you want people most to know about epilepsy? What do you want? There's stigma surrounding it, as with a lot of illnesses where the brain is the focus. What do you want people to know?
I'd like people to know that this is a kind of condition that can happen to just about anyone. And if not to you, it can happen to others related to you. It can happen to relatives, it can happen to friends. Am I saying this because I am wishing that it would happen in that way? No. I am simply saying, truthfully, you just never know. So, should you be around someone and you don't even feel brave enough or have the feeling enough to touch the person, at least take out your cell phone and call someone. Call the police in turn. I will give one example of one person I was told about, a nurse, and her husband had picked me up when I was heading in to GBN for one afternoon. And the nurse told me, by the way, you still get those seizures? You still have epilepsy? And I said, yes. She said, you know, something dreadful happened to someone the other day. And she went on to tell me that during 8 o'clock morning traffic, during a weekday, a work weekday, this young man started having seizures on a bus. The other passengers around him decided they did not want to travel with him. He was coming down by White Gun, coming from St. Paul's, and the driver, when he got to the roundabout at the top of Loader's Lane, he pulled on the side by the pavement. He and the bus conductor lifted this gentleman who was in the midst of still having these throats, these seizures, these fits, up off onto the pavement outside. A lady, an elderly lady, was sitting on her veranda and she called out, "Hey, what are you doing there?" The bus driver and the conductor looked at the lady, just rested the man on the pavement, jumped on their bus, drove off, and left this man on the pavement.
That is cold.
That lady is the one who called the hospital, and the hospital sent an ambulance. When that nurse gave me that account, when I got to the station, I just burst into what we know as classic radio. And I just demanded of the speaker, the announcer who was on, I said, I have something to say one time. And that announcer listened to me as I gave the account. I said, I hope that any one of you who is listening and you were involved in just sitting in the bus watching the busman and the conductor resting that man on the pavement outside. I hope that all of you realize that if that man had died during that seizure, all of you would have had these seizures on your hands in one degree or another. I said, don't let me find out who any one of you is. Back then, I was that curious about it. Now, I have calmed down somewhat, or somewhat, I should say, but I will still say, if you come across or encounter someone who is having a similar problem, even if you don't feel that you can get involved, you are too scared to do so, fine. Just get your cell phone out, call the police, and from there, it will be dealt with.